Thank you very much, and thanks, Sarah, for that great introduction where you slagged off video interviewing, by the way. You've set me up there. Thank you. I'll try and talk about the benefits of video interviewing now. Let me just start off by saying that this has been a fascinating day for somebody like me. And I've got quite a long career in operations and in HR, by the way. And I've picked up lots of stuff today. And I've come on, I've actually, my penultimate slide is about some challenges for you that I'd like you to take away. It's really important that when you come to an event like today, you take 2 or 3 things away. You might remember what everybody said, but you've all made notes, and think about 2 or 3 things that you'll take away and might start to implement. Big conversation. It's great to come to this event. You've taken a day off from work, but actually it's a real investment, this, because the changes and the stuff you've heard about today, if you go back and implement some of those changes, I promise you, you'll see a difference in your organisation. Video interviewing is not the be-all and end-all, by the way, and it's about one of the solutions you might want to think about in the future. And when it comes to recruitment, there is no one-size-fits-all, by the way. So if you just go along with doing what you've always done and you've just gone for face-to-face interviews, and you need to try different things, by the way, because one of the things that is changing significantly is the marketplace in which we all operate. And actually the world in which we live in changes continually and changes daily. And it's important that you as individuals actually not just understand that, but start to think about what you might to do in your careers and actually what you then do for candidates. Okay. I hate slides, by the way, so I'm going to ignore these slides. You feel free to read those if you want to. I'll try not to speak from the slides. So about 2.5 years ago, 3 years ago it was, we were in the same old cycle of doing things what a lot of in-house recruitment teams do, and we were doing all the things that in-house recruitment teams do. Great website, you attract people from your website, and then you then hope for the best in lots of ways as well. When you send it to a hiring manager, you hope hiring managers do the right things. In-house recruiters have got an unbelievable responsibility in an organisation. And your jobs don't finish when you've got a candidate and that candidate starts. I think it's about a holistic approach now to recruitment. You need to understand that relationships are absolutely key. And actually part of a recruiter's role, I believe, is making sure not just providing a great experience for that candidate, but to ensure that that candidate expectation matches the employee experience. And that's what we start to speak about in Post Office. When I speak about Post Office, everyone says to me, oh my gosh, that's a massive organisation, all those people who deliver letters. We are not Royal Mail, by the way. So Post Office and Royal Mail are 2 separate companies. Up until about 4 years ago, they were part of the same company. I know Royal Mail really well because I used to work there, and I came to Post Office about 4 years ago. Okay, they are 2 separate companies, and we have our own inherent challenges. I refer to Post Office as a 350-year-old startup. Post Office and Royal Mail have been around for 350 years, but Post Office has been an independent company for 4 years, and that gave us some significant challenges. If you're a recruiter, with all due respect, one of the things that people always talk about is reduce your time to hire, increase your ratio, reduce your days to hire. Actually, it's cost too much. I don't get great candidates. Why don't I get great candidates? One of the challenges we faced, we had to bring in 120 people in a very short period of time across 100 of our branches nationwide. That was the challenge that we were given. I was dead lucky, actually, because I'd just taken a real chance. I'd recruited somebody who was 27 years old, who was my head of resourcing. Wow, 27 years old, head of resourcing. Previous head of resourcing had lots and lots of experience. This was a guy who was 27 years old. He was the best head of resourcing I've ever had working for me, by the way. And he said to me, why don't we just try something called video interviewing? Let's just give it a try and let's see how it works. We've got 8 weeks to try and recruit 120 candidates across 100 different locations. In the past, we spent a fortune doing it. We'd sent people out to assist hiring managers. So the challenge was, can you do it quicker? Can you do it cheaper? And actually, let's just try and do something called video interviewing, which might just make it a little bit easier for our hiring managers, and it might just help in terms of getting a younger demographic into our organisation. I joined the business 4.5 years ago. Our average employee, 7,500 employees, our average age was 46 years and 4 months. Okay? 46 years and 4 months. Average length of service was 16 years and 7 months. Okay? Everyone thinks that's brilliant. Oh my God, that in many ways is just a nightmare as well, because people become set in their ways, they don't like change, you become an organisation that just does the things you've always done, you're not very commercial. And this young 27-year-old said, let's try something different. Let's go and recruit younger people we possibly can do, and let's spend time recruiting from those places where people don't usually look. So have we tried to recruit from NEET populations? So not in education, employment or training. There's some stuff that we tried to do. And video interviewing was part of the process. And I say part of the process, it wasn't just, it wasn't one thing we did, it was a number of things that we were doing. At the same time, we were also aware that lots of people who thought they were joining Royal Mail, or sorry, joining Post, were joining Royal Mail. People coming to us, even despite having a really good online presence, were coming to us thinking they were joining Royal Mail Group. So we had to change our employer branding and talk about what Post Office was, what we did, what we were aiming to do. Post Office is the biggest retailer, is the largest retailer in terms of stores in Western Europe. Okay? 11,500 branches, only 320 of those are employee owned. So this was a pretty difficult task for us. Sorry, I'm going to go back. A lot of the time, I guess you will know what you think is the right thing to do. But you know what? People just don't listen. And if only your pesky CEO or your pesky directors listened to what you thought was the right thing to do, then things would be great. Actually, we knew this was the right thing to do. We were convinced it was the right thing to do, so we took a chance. Some business challenges, okay? And I'm sure that your hiring manager will say the same thing. I'm really busy. This is going to add to my day job. I just haven't got the time to do this. Why do we need to do it? What about people who don't like applying in this way? By all means, challenge me or ask me any questions as I go through this. This is a big conversation. Just don't wait till the end to ask me any questions. What about people who don't like applying in this way? And what that was saying is, you know what? We might not attract the same type of person we've got internally already, by the way. What does that tell you? What about people who just don't like applying in this way? What that said to me is, I just want to recruit people who are like me, actually. I want somebody who's probably dead experienced in customer service. I want somebody who's probably in their 40s, who've been there, who've done it. And we said, absolutely not. We need to recruit younger people because we need to stay relevant moving forward. And actually, not only is our employee age increasing, our customer base and our demographic of our customers is also increasing significantly as well. We don't have a problem attracting candidates. We get loads. We just weren't recruiting, we just weren't employing people, with all due respect, under the age of 25. Oh my God. Why do you have to change? Just stand up for me. Just do me a favour and stand up. I need bottled water. That's why I'm making them stand up. Okay, this is a game of play stand-up bingo. Right. If you've not changed in the last 5 years, stay standing. Everyone's going, do I stand up? Do I sit down? What should I do? Stand back up. Just stand back up. Stand back up for me. By the way, guys, this is not a trick question, I promise you. If you as an individual or as an employee has not changed in the last 12 months, stay standing. Everyone's going, do I sit down? Do I stand up? Everyone else is sit. Okay, you can sit down now, guys. You've won. Well done. Now, what that demonstrates is you continually evolve as an individual. Okay? Your requirements, your personal lives, your work, everything changes. Things change around you. And guess what? You know what? People you try and recruit and your current employees, they're all the same as well. So this thing called change that, you know what, not many people really like, it happens and it goes on. And if you don't change, I promise you, if you don't change and your companies don't change, you'll go the way of some other companies, in my opinion, as well. Okay, so we had this thing called Christmas Paid Work Experience, and we were trying to attract 120 people to fill jobs in 100 of our branches up and down the country. Go back to video interviewing was part of the solution, but what we also did is we made a conscious effort to try and attract people who are kind of furthest away from the labour market as well. And that's a real challenge, by the way, because that is really difficult to do. So it's great a lot of time when you're talking about attracting people who are managerial grades and going out and you're doing your sourcing, or attracting graduates. That's great in many ways. But actually go back to someone's talking about corporate social responsibility. If you, as recruiters, and you as people who've said to me, you sit on boards, don't go away and try and give people a chance who are furthest from the labour market, who else is going to do it, by the way? That's a real challenge. Okay, I'll just go through, change this. So I talked about this wasn't just one thing. We didn't just say to everybody, go through a video interview and we'll give you a job. We didn't do that. We still went through the traditional method of saying to people, we'd like to know a bit about you, okay? So complete a CV and let's have a look at your CV. Then what we did, we said, actually, we as an organisation now, we value attitude above experience. Now, lots of people have said today, we really value attitude, and actually that's a great thing to have. But actually, unconscious bias is a really important thing to understand, and actually what lots of people still want is, I just want people who are experienced, I just want people who are like me, by the way. That's the unconscious bias bit. Just a bit of a story. When I worked for Royal Mail, we spent a lot of time working with people, recruiting people who got disabilities or individuals furthest in the labour market. And I got a guy job who had one arm. This is the gospel truth, right? This is no joke. So one arm postman, and there is a joke in there somewhere, but anyway. But what happened is this one arm postman got sacked for stealing mail. Hiring manager went absolutely ballistic at me and said, don't ever dare send me anybody with one arm again. I kid you not, right? So what he was saying was, everybody who has got one arm must be a thief, okay? And that's about unconscious bias, by the way. We all have it. It's about what do you do to make sure that doesn't kind of influence your decisions moving forward. And there'll be lots of occasions when you recall that either people have demonstrated unconscious bias or we do it without even knowing it. So we were all about recruiting people with positive attitudes. Okay? Now, if anybody ever says they are not influenced by people with positive attitudes, I kind of think people are lying. Because most people in this room will have positive attitudes. Most people have can-do attitudes. If you say, do you want to recruit somebody or do you want to work with somebody who's really negative, what would your response be? You're all really negative there, by the way. But what would your response be? Your response would be, I don't want to be surrounded by negative people. You want to be surrounded by positive people because working with positive people impacts on us and makes us feel better. And actually, positive people who interact with customers are much more likely to succeed in their careers, which then grows your business. So, during that video process, we were interested in positive attitudes. It wasn't about what have you done previously, it's what can you as an individual bring. The real benefit of this is that when hiring managers actually got and we did video interviews almost replacing telephone interviews, by the way. So we did literally go through hundreds and hundreds of videos, and we brought some young people in to actually, we recruited some young people to help us in this space as well. And we then said to hiring managers, we will now send you 3 videos of people who've passed their video interview. They thought it was wonderful, by the way, because actually, again, thinking about the way the mind works, I'm much more likely to give somebody a chance if I know that person. So actually, interacting with before I've even met somebody, I kind of have a feel for that person before I met somebody. So the hiring manager's experience was fantastic. It was great, okay? But it didn't replace some of the more traditional methods of recruitment. And that's the point I want to make here. There is, and I'll continue to repeat this there is no one size fits all. So don't think I'm going to stand here and say video recruitment's the future and just do away with everything you do and just replace it with video interviewing. There is a place for video interviewing. If I was going to bring in a CFO or a CEO or a senior manager, or I might not use this methodology, by the way. Because if you want to recruit somebody as a CEO with bags and bags of experience, you might not want to recruit somebody in the age of 24 who's very, very used to this kind of technology. So this had a place. Okay? Right. And the reason why this was so critical for hiring managers is they could actually do this on the train home. They could actually view it on a mobile device. They could view it on a laptop. They could view it at home. So actually, it didn't get in the way of their day job. They actually really bought into this process because it can be done in their own time, at their own pace, when they thought it was relevant as well. And I go back to, it was great for hiring managers because they could really start to think about the person they were going to recruit. And you might have got some unconscious bias by saying, you know what, I particularly don't like that person because I don't like the way they look, I don't like the way they smile. But this was all about doing the right thing at the right time for our business. The reason why our board loved this is because it saved 30% on what we spent the year before, by the way. So when we convinced our board to say, actually, we need a bit of money to actually put in this pilot, and they said, well, actually, we don't like giving you money, Joe, but we'll give you this occasion, but you have to come back on your return investment and tell me how successful it's been. The first thing they looked at is, my God, it saved £50,000. It saved 30% of what we spent last year, and you've recruited more people in more locations, a big tick in the box. Okay? I'm going to just, this is now a conversation I'm going to have with you. And lots of you around this room now will in some way, shape or form influence decisions about who comes into your company. Be that as a hiring manager, be that as a recruiter, be that as someone who actually works for an agency who's sending people to interview and placements. A really concerning stat for me was this morning. And one of the stats I think Mark gave me his first presentation, 22% of organisations haven't changed their recruitment process recently. Oh my gosh, that is a worry, by the way. You've heard today about how different generations value different things. And when I started work a few years ago, okay, what was important, what I was told was go and get a career because a career is really important. Stay in one organisation a long time because that's really important. That's what people really value. If you go to another job and you've had lots of jobs in your CV, oh my God, you won't even get shortlisted. I've got my three eldest kids. They've all graduated in the last 4 or 5 years. They've all had at least 3 jobs in that time. If young people, with all due respect, don't like the job they're doing, or actually just want to try something different, they'll go and do it, by the way. They won't think twice of saying, thank you very much for 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, but I just want to try something different. And it's changing the face of how recruiters should be thinking about what they're doing in their organisation, okay? It's really concerning if you are still operating the same recruitment process that you were operating 2 or 3 years ago, in my opinion. I'm not saying anybody's wrong, by the way. I'm just saying it should be a concern. Oh, sorry. This is really interesting as well. And actually, again, think about the people who are accountable for recruitment in your organisation. Do you have young people working in your recruitment function? Do you have young people working in your HR function? Do you have young people who make decisions in your organisation? Because again, on the tables, there are still a lot of boards, especially of large organisations, who are predominantly of a certain demographic, okay? So think about what might be important to job seekers now, what might be important to young people, and what might be important to individuals generally. And actually, do we think like young people think? Do we know what young people want? You've heard lots of statistics today about what's really important for those young people. Think about, because actually they are your candidates of the future, by the way. Okay? So make sure you think about that. Again, your relationships internally are key to this. A conversation I was having on the table before was, I just can't get the CEO on board. I just can't get board members on board. They just don't listen. Everything stops with them. I'll tell you some of the things that I've done, okay, as we go through this. But actually, your relationships internally are key. How do you get your voice heard? If you knock at a door and somebody doesn't answer it, if your ideas don't get heard, you keep knocking. You keep making sure you have those conversations. Actually, because the good ideas are not just reserved for those people who paid the most money in the organisation, by the way. Again, a lot of the time we get hung up by invisible barriers. Somebody said to me, don't do video interviewing, Joe, it's not the right thing to do. But that doesn't stop me doing it. Sometimes the way I try to live is, you know what, I'll try and do things and then I might ask for permission later. If you continue to wait for permission before you act, you know what, you might never get your company to change. You might not get your organisation to change. A great story on that one, by the way, about how internal relationships and how good ideas are not restricted to people at the very top of an organisation. 2002 or 2003. Hands up, who remembers an organisation called, who remembers a shop you used to go to get your DVDs called Blockbusters? Who remembers Blockbusters? People in the age of 21 are just saying, what the hell's Blockbusters? I've never heard of that place. So Blockbusters was a place which was a physical store you used to go in and you used to rent DVDs. Okay? You go and you rent a DVD and you get your Coke, your popcorn, your crisps, and it was a really successful organisation, an American organisation. About 12 or 13 years ago, a startup, okay, this fledgling organisation that wanted investment, this company that I don't think exists anymore called Netflix, went and spent some time with Blockbusters. And they said, we think we've got this really great offering, by the way. Okay, really great offering, and we'd like to get into partnership with you. Okay, board of Blockbuster, that board thought they knew best. And what they said, what are they on about? This group of young people are trying to sell this thing called Netflix. People love coming in our stores. They love renting a physical copy of a DVD. They love doing that because that's about experience. Okay? And they rejected Netflix's offer. And I think Netflix was offering it for a song, a few $1 million. I'll let that sink in for a minute. What happened to Blockbusters? Sorry? There are no Blockbusters. What happened to Netflix? They're doing all right. Okay, a multi-billion-pound organisation because somebody wasn't thinking about how they stayed relevant moving forward. And for me, staying relevant means how do you stay relevant, not just to your current customer base, but how do you grow that customer base? And actually, if you don't listen to what young people want and you don't listen to what young people are saying and you don't employ young people in your organisation, then actually that should be sending some kind of warning because they're not just your future employees, they're your future customers as well. I always people get hung up by invisible barriers. If only my boss would listen to me. You know what? If only that person would listen to me. Just don't stop. Never stop knocking on that door, like I say. If you think you've got an idea, you keep knocking, because I promise you, the more you knock, eventually somebody will answer that door and somebody will listen to you. The only barriers that we have are the ones that we put in front of ourselves. I love people who are challenging, and that's challenging the right way. I love people who are naturally curious. Everybody, or most people, will do things differently from time to time. And we all continually change and evolve. We do. But actually, in the workplace, sometimes, internally, we don't really change. We think what we're doing now is what's right for tomorrow and the next day. Make sure you as an individual don't get left behind. Make sure you and your organisation don't become like Blockbusters or like BHS, who just don't think about remaining relevant. People sometimes don't like me saying this, but recruiting disruptors in your organisation isn't a bad thing, by the way. Okay? If you don't get people who challenge, if you don't get people who are naturally curious, and young people are brilliant at this, by the way, they will be naturally curious. For those people who've got young kids, let me see if I can get. So, if you say to a young child, something works this way, what will their response be? Okay, it works this way because of. What's the next question? I'm telling you again, it works this way because of A, B, and C. I've explained it. I'll give you a bit more information. What's the next question? You give them a slap across the head and say, but that's what a young child, you don't really. Please don't tell the police that, by the way. I'll get into trouble again. But what happens is we stop doing that as adults, okay? So when somebody said to me, why do you want to do video interviews? I could have just said, you know what, it's just a bit too difficult. I just won't continue with this. But keep going back to why? Okay, keep going back to, actually keep being curious, naturally curious, because when you're naturally curious, you'll make things happen. Never wait for permission to act, by the way. You might think that's easy for me to say, because, but don't. Never, ever wait for permission to act. If you think you've got a good idea, if you think you've got something you can sell, if you think you can do better in terms of your candidates, just go and do whatever you need to do. Sometimes I keep going back to the only obstacles we put in the way are the ones we put in there ourselves. Change is really good, by the way. It really is good. And this last bullet point, you've listened to lots of conversations today. You've heard lots of really good people talking, and you got me. But actually, lots and lots of things you've heard. And actually, you'll be talking at your table, you'll be thinking, I'll go away and I'll implement this. And you'll go into the office tomorrow, you'll go into work tomorrow, and we say, what was it like yesterday? Yeah, it was kind of all right. It was kind of okay. You imagine if just 2 or 3 things you took away today, so this group of 100, 150 people just took 2 or 3 things away from today and said, why don't we try that? Why don't we just do that? Why don't I just knock at that door? Why don't I have a conversation with the chief exec? It can start to make a difference. So we took our potential graduates and apprentices through this process, okay? So we took them through this process, and they thought it was fantastic. I just recruited 4 16-year-olds in one of our big centres in Chesterfield. They were recruited in August of last year. Sorry, in August of this year. So they've been in the business probably 8 weeks. And I said to our board when I was kind of doing this campaign, I want that group of young people who are aged 16 and 17 to come into your board meeting in October to talk to you about how our organisation stays relevant moving forward. Okay? And the board went, yeah, great. Because we want to understand from young people what we need to do differently to stay relevant moving forward. I was talking to this small cohort of individuals who were kind of very young, and they thought this is a fantastic opportunity, by the way. But when I sat down with them earlier this week and said, so what are you going to say? They were really nervous about doing it. And oh my God, what are we going to say? Because these are really important people, and these are people who've been around years who know far more than me. What I said to that group of people is, they don't know how what you and your mates are saying about staying relevant to a different demographic of customers moving forward, or how we attract more 16 and 17-year-olds. Say what you want. I'm not going to give you a script. Now, actually, that is a really powerful statement to make to a group of kids in many ways, because this is a group of 16 and 17-year-olds who are going to go into our board meeting to talk to that board about remaining relevant as an organisation. That's really important, is that some people in an organisation don't always think how to remain relevant, because lots of people just think about the next 3 months, the next 6 months, the next 9 months. But what about the next 3 years, the next 5 years? Okay? Your current client database, your current customer database may not be the same. It was easy when I was growing up because life was much easier. I promise you it was much easier than what it is today, because things didn't change the way they did now. And lots of organisations really had lots of monopolies in many areas. There's not one organisation now that I can think of that does something that another organisation doesn't. Okay? If you don't keep your employees happy, if your employees aren't evangelists for your organisation, you better make sure they do become real evangelists for the organisation. Your employees are a real voice for good in your organisation. So treat your current employees well. Treat your candidates really well, and treat them like customers, by the way. So make sure, wherever possible, that irrespective whether somebody gets a job or not, they have a fantastic experience. Okay? This is not just about video interviewing is the right thing to do. It is a potential solution to a particular need in many organisations, but it is not the only solution. Okay? If you don't change as individuals and your organisations don't continually change and evolve, guess what will happen? Somebody else will. Anybody know that is? That's me, by the way, when I had black. No, it's not me. Who's that? Yeah, well done. Well done, old people in the room, by the way. Everyone else is going, who's that? Right, so this is a guy called Dick Fosbury, and Dick Fosbury was a pretty nondescript athlete. And if you ever watch old clips of the Olympics, okay, people used to jump over a bar either by doing a scissor kick, which I'd like you to demonstrate now. Do you want to come up to? Okay, or they did something called a stride, right? Dick Fosbury was just a run-of-the-mill athlete. Not great, but he started to think, how can I become a real champion? And he started to jump over a high jump bar backwards. When he started to do this, the US Olympic Committee, then the International Olympic Committee banned it. Why did they ban it? Why did they ban that jump? Different to how people have done it before. What else? Why else would they have banned it? Sorry? Better. Why else do you think they might have banned that? Sorry? Love that. Beat the Americans, by the way. This was banned because it breached health and safety guidelines. Right? Now, when you jump over a high jump bar, what do you land on? Sorry? A mat. Okay, a soft mat. If you go back 50 years, get my maths right, or 50, what do you think you landed on 50 years ago? The ground. So when he started to do this, everyone said, you can't do this, people break their necks. Okay? But he then kept, and ultimately somebody said, well, actually, why don't we just allow this to happen? And if somebody lands on the mat, they're not going to break their necks. Okay? He smashed the world record and became an Olympic champion by just thinking differently. Okay? Now, everybody didn't just think, you know what, let's just continue to stride over that bar, or let's continue to do a scissor kick over that bar. It's physically impossible to do it. So everybody then did what Dick Fosbury did and said, if we want to kind of achieve, want to be an Olympic champion, if we want to beat Dick Fosbury, we'll have to operate in the way he does. And to be honest, there are not many organisations now that go and do something brand new. There aren't. But lots and lots of organisations have to play catch-up when an organisation either does something new or does something with customer experience. Okay? I'm not saying go and be a Dick Fosbury, by the way. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is, what small things can you change as a result of what you've heard today that will make your organisation a better place, will actually make you a better candidate when you go for jobs, and actually, what can you do to make yourself and your organisations more relevant moving forward? Are you going to tell me I'm out of time now?
Yeah.
What about my next 15 slides?
Thank you very much, Joe. Thank you.